Hello. This is the third talk in my Get Out of the Way series and comes essentially from my book, My Thinking Cap, Solutions for Global Crisis. First, let me make it clear. While I support most actions to minimize pollution, I do not believe that human beings can do anything significant to limit climate change. The following statements are the basis for this talk and the solution I am presenting. It would be to the world's advantage to minimize pollution of any kind. It would be to our advantage to become energy independent. It would also be to our advantage to be proactive in solving the energy crisis. And finally, it would be to our advantage to hold a vision of the future where we have succeeded in becoming energy independent and continue to be the country that people throughout the world look up to and dream of becoming citizens of. So how do we become energy independent in a reasonable length of time while minimizing pollution and creating an environment where business will thrive and our nation can look forward to decades of socioeconomic health? Well, there's no doubt in my mind that carbon taxes are not the answer and will instead cause additional suffering without solving any of the world's problems. What is the solution? Well, transportation vehicles, cars and trucks are the greatest polluters, and the problem will only get worse with the increase in automobiles throughout the world. Just solving this one problem will effectively solve the pollution problem worldwide. Since most of this pollution comes from the use of gasoline to fuel the vast majority of the world's vehicles, let's first take a look at our alternatives. Propane, natural gas, and methanol are popular alternative fuels that are readily available. When compared with gasoline, these fuels produce fewer air pollutants and greenhouse gas emissions, but they are not a zero pollution alternative. The major issue is creating the infrastructure needed to service the hundreds of millions of automobiles in the United States. Private companies wouldn't be too excited about making this time, money, and resource commitment if it looked like a better alternative was just around the corner. I do agree with the Pickens plan as far as using natural gas to power the trucks that serve the nation. Ethanol can be made from renewable resources such as corn, sugarcane, grain, wood, etc. However, there are many negatives to using ethanol as a replacement for gasoline. The major issue here is that corn is a food, and not just any food. Corn oil is used in thousands of products. Our livestock, cows, pigs, chickens, etc. eat corn. And then, of course, are the hundreds of millions of people around the world who depend on corn as a major source of nutrition. And this is just the beginning. Corn is expensive to convert to fuel. And unlike oil, pipelines cannot be used to take it from manufacturing to distribution. Ethanol must be trucked to all major distribution centers and then trucked to the service stations. Bottom line, corn ethanol is an extremely inefficient solution. Hydrogen is often touted to be the vehicle fuel of the future. There's no doubt that when produced from renewable resources, hydrogen has the potential to be one of the cleanest alternative fuels. Hydrogen gas is the most abundant element on Earth, but it needs to be extracted from compounds, such as natural gas or water, before it is available as a fuel. It will likely be many years before hydrogen is a cost-effective and commercially available fuel. Electric-powered vehicles produce no tailpipe emissions. However, they do use electricity from sources such as electric power generating plants, which do produce pollution. However, there have been, especially here in the United States, significant advances in controlling the pollution from these facilities. The major problem with electric-powered vehicles has been the distances they can travel without having to recharge the batteries. However, technologies continue to improve, with the Tesla plug-in electric Roadster getting a range of 220 miles on a single charge, and a 135 mile per gallon equivalent to a gasoline-powered car. And recently, Tesla has announced the Model S, a 7-passenger sedan that gets up to 300 miles on a single charge, has outstanding performance characteristics, and at a base price of $50,000 is half the cost of the Tesla Roadster. In addition, battery technology continues to improve, which means we can probably look forward to an electric car with a 500-plus mile range within the next decade. But how about the infrastructure issue? When I'm talking to groups about this option, I ask the question, we have service stations to refuel our gasoline-driven vehicles. So how many service stations exist to refuel our electric-powered vehicles? Usually the response is well under 1,000, sometimes as few as a dozen. Almost everyone is surprised when I tell them that there are well over 300 million refueling stations already in existence. This includes, of course, every home and business in the United States. The infrastructure for refueling electric vehicles already exists. You just pull your car into the garage and plug it in. And even more impressive, adding more outlets at every parking garage, motel, office, etc. will be a very simple process. Even after mentioning all of these positives, I still get objections. For example, well, where's all this electricity coming from? In the beginning, this will not be an issue. Remember, most of this recharging will take place overnight, when our electrical usage nationwide is at its lowest levels. Effective, efficient electric vehicles will put us on the road to dramatically reducing vehicle-caused pollution in a very short time and effectively eliminating it altogether in the long run. So far, it seems like the electric vehicle is a no-brainer for the future of vehicular traffic in the United States, actually the world. The equivalent gas mileage is 135 miles per gallon. The technology to manufacture the car and produce the fuel exists and has been fully tested. The performance is equal to or better than gasoline-fueled cars or any other alternative. The infrastructure to deliver the fuel is already in existence and is actually superior to what exists for gasoline. And I haven't even mentioned how silently they run. Yes, we also have an end to noise pollution. So if all of this is true, what's the problem? The negatives of the all-electric are basically non-existent. The only real issue is that we will need sufficient electricity to power a society that is essentially based on electric power. And this power will have to come from reliable power plants that can effectively and efficiently supply the power when it is needed. However, it's much easier to control pollution from power plants than from 300 million vehicles. In addition, electricity is essential to our continued existence as a viable society. Power plants must be built. I have complete confidence that the United States has the entrepreneurial spirit needed to solve the energy crisis. The government just needs to get out of the way and let that spirit thrive. This, of course, means telling the environmental lobbies that our nation is committed to doing what is right to protect our position in the world, while doing what is necessary to protect the environment and limit pollution. But we will no longer listen to naysayers whose solutions, or lack of solutions, put our nation and our people in jeopardy. The result, we can take an honest look at our power needs for the next 50 years and begin the process of building the power plants necessary to meet those needs, with the full understanding that reliable energy from the most effective and efficient sources is our objective. If this means nuclear, we need to be about it. If this means exploiting our abundant resources of oil, coal, and natural gas, we need to be about it. If this means better technology to limit pollution from coal and oil, we need to be about it. And if this means developing the battery technology needed to make solar, wind, and tidal more viable, we need to be about it. In fact, we need to be about all of these right now. As I think about the stalling techniques put into action by those that would have us embrace technologies not yet proven, thereby risking millions of lives across our nation, I'm reminded of a story about Stockton, California. Back in the beginning of the 20th century, the leaders of the city of Stockton became concerned about the peat dust pollution that often blanketed the city. The city fathers were determined to solve the problem, and it was important to solve it as quickly as possible. So they called in the experts, and after a year-long study, the experts told them that the best solution was to plant eucalyptus trees around the land that contained the peat moss that was causing the problem. The city fathers asked how long it would take before the trees grew to a size needed to limit the peat dust. They were told 15 to 20 years. This was not good news, and resulted in a discussion about the viability of embarking on a project that would take this long to achieve results. I attended the University of Pacific in Stockton from 1959 to 1962. The discussion was still going on. As far as I know, it's still going on today. Well, this finishes the third in my Get Out of the Way video talks. The fourth is 3 stories from the early days of computer games, including the inspiration behind computer card solitaire. Brad Frager here. Thank you once again for joining me. Bye for now.